Suffering, inevitable for any human being, is often seen as an unwanted condition, an adversity to avoid. But a deeper analysis reveals that suffering carries lessons and meanings, challenging our understanding and offering growth. In many traditions, suffering is not an obstacle but a transformative force. In Buddhism, for example, it is seen as a phenomenon arising from attachment, the desire to control the world, to cling to people, things, or even the idea of ourselves. Buddha teaches that while pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice, as it stems from clinging to impermanent things. This concept suggests that suffering can force us to look inward, to confront the illusions we build about what is important. When something is taken from us, a relationship, a position, an expectation, we are compelled to face a fundamental truth: nothing is permanent. Thus, suffering calls us to let go of illusions and seek a more authentic view of life, to restructure ourselves internally and detach from what is non-essential. This doesn't imply that suffering is pleasant, but rather that it can be an opportunity, a fertile ground for growth. It's a paradox. Suffering, instead of being something that destroys, has the potential to build a clearer vision of ourselves and the world. To the Stoics, suffering is a proving ground where character is revealed. Epictetus said that we should not fear problems, but accept them as a natural part of life. In Stoic thought, hardships are a training for the soul. By facing them, we strengthen our capacity to endure, understand, and transform reality. When you think about it, it's in adversity that we truly discover our limits, virtues, and flaws. Suffering forces the soul to become more resilient, to expand its boundaries of strength and courage. A life without suffering, in this sense, would leave us unprepared, weakened in the face of any difficulty. This perspective invites us to see suffering as something that not only reveals who we are but shapes us day by day. Like gold refined in fire, humans, when facing and overcoming adversity, reach new depths, gaining wisdom and humility essential to understanding life's purpose. Those who endure suffering often become more empathetic. By feeling pain intimately, we learn to recognize and respect the pain of others. This transcends simple sympathy. It's a true connection that brings people together and creates deeper bonds. In this sense, suffering teaches us that we are not alone in our fragility. Many spiritual traditions emphasize that compassion arises from this perception of shared pain. As we go through our own losses and struggles, we become more understanding of those facing similar challenges. Thus, suffering can humanize us, teaching us to see others as part of ourselves. In this context, suffering not only makes us better individually, but also helps us build a more connected society. It reminds us that pain is a universal language, a shared reality that unites us in our vulnerability, prompting us to extend a hand to others. Suffering places us face to face with one of the hardest truths to accept: the impermanence of everything around us. It forces us to confront the fact that everything, our possessions, our relationships, even our own life, is transient. In a way, suffering is a teacher that shows us what is truly lasting and what is temporary. When we are forced to lose something or someone important, we realize just how much our hopes rested on something fleeting. And it is precisely this experience that teaches us to value the present and to focus on what is truly essential. This confrontation with impermanence is uncomfortable, but it frees us from the need to control everything, inviting us to live more genuinely. Thus, suffering reminds us that life is not about accumulating possessions and external successes, but a journey of self-awareness and acceptance of our own fleeting nature. By realizing this, we open space for a more authentic existence, guided by what truly matters. Through suffering, we often reassess our values and redefine what holds true meaning. It is common that, when facing difficult moments, we find that certain desires and aspirations that once seemed important become irrelevant. Pain forces us to think, what really matters? This process of redefinition is perhaps one of suffering's greatest lessons. It gives us the opportunity to rethink our priorities, to review our lives, and to ask ourselves what brings true peace and fulfillment. In losing something, we come to appreciate what we still have. This perception not only changes our perspective on life, but also gives us a new understanding of gratitude. In this sense, Suffering acts as a compass that directs us toward a fuller, more meaningful life. It forces us to question superficiality and seek a life that, even amid pain, is full of purpose. Without the experience of pain, joy would feel empty. It's the duality of suffering and happiness that allows a deep sense of satisfaction and gratitude to arise. Often, we only recognize the value of peace and happiness when they contrast with times of difficulty. This duality teaches us that life is not made up solely of pleasure and achievements, but is a complex composition of highs and lows. Suffering, therefore, is part of a natural cycle where pain allows us to savor joy with more intensity. Instead of seeing life as a straight line toward success or happiness, we come to view it as a dance between light and shadow. This understanding prepares us to live with greater presence, appreciating each moment of tranquility as a rare gift, and reminding us that life itself is built on this interdependence of opposites. Ultimately, suffering leads us to a deep dive into our own essence. It reveals aspects of us that were often hidden. In moments of pain, we have the opportunity to take a sincere self-assessment, to question who we are and what we seek. In many cases, suffering leads to a kind of rebirth. To go through pain forces us to rebuild our identity, to leave behind who we were, and to seek a new version of ourselves. This process of self-discovery is fundamental, as it allows us to grow not only as individuals, but as conscious beings. Suffering, by launching us on a journey of internal exploration, teaches us about our weaknesses, our strengths, our true motivations. And it is this self-knowledge that gives us the capacity to face life with greater wisdom, courage, and authenticity. Suffering, while painful, is one of life's most revealing experiences. It transforms us, strengthens us, teaches us to see others with more compassion, reminds us of the impermanence of everything, redefines our values, and leads us to self-discovery. It is, paradoxically, a force that frees us from illusions and brings us closer to the truth of who we are. Suffering, then, is not merely an unavoidable part of existence, but an essential part of it. Because, without it, we could never truly understand what it means to live.